Hasya Jalasnanam Karomyaham Shri Rupa Vaksudhasnanam Svatmanaha Parishuddhaye Shuddhyartham Mama Dehasya. For the purification of my physical body, Jalasnanam Karomyaham. I bathe regularly using water. But Svatmanaha Parishuddhaye. But for the thorough purification of my soul, however, Shri Rupa Vaksudhasnanam. I bathe in the nectar of the words of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. And it is Srila Rupa Goswami who is wonderfully instructing Srila Jiva Goswami. And through Sri Jiva Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami is instructing all of us, sadhakas, who wish to progress on the path of Shri Krishna Bhakti. So welcome, dear devotees. Once again, we have Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, first verse going on. And in the previous session, we were discussing the vega named krodha vegam, or the urge of anger. And we saw what are the repercussions of having uncontrolled anger and what is the nature of anger. So we saw all of that, and we saw ways and means of trying to restrict this urge of anger. So that was done last time. But before we move ahead, Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells us what happens to a person who manages to control krodha vegam. So what is the result of controlled krodha vegam? And that is instructed by Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum praksharira vimokshanat kama krodhodbhavam vegam sayuktah sa sukhi narah. So very clearly, Krishna in this verse has used the term krodha and vegam. You can see directly in the third line, you can see krodha and vegam. So this verse is perfect for us. So Shaknoti, one who is capable, ihaiva, in this world, yaha sodhum, who is capable of tolerating, prak sharira vimokshanat, before giving up the body. So before giving up the body, if one is able to tolerate, so what is one able to tolerate? Kama krodha udbhavam vegam. So the vegas which are born out of kama, and after frustration of kama arises krodha, we saw last time. So if one is able to tolerate these two vegas, sa yuktah, is well situated. And not only is he well situated in his spiritual life, sa sukhi naraha, is also happy in this world. Definitely he is going to be happy in the next world, but he is happy in this world itself. So his happiness will be seen by him or her in this very world. He will have direct practical experience of happiness by controlling krodha vegam. So this is a guarantee given by Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 23rd verse. So by controlling krodha vegam, it opens the doors to happiness, not in the next world, but in this world. And of course, in the next world too. But sometimes sadhakas say, what do we gain in this world by practicing Krishna Bhakti? So in this world also, there are a lot of things to be gained by those who are performing Krishna Bhakti. So this is one of the things which is to be gained. Naturally, we will remain happy in this world, undisturbed by the circumstances around us. And we can see this with devotees. Often there is a lot of political turmoil going on in the world, a lot of politics. And you see those of us who travel sometimes in public transport, we see people often discussing about it, chit-chatting about it, and getting unnecessarily riled up about it. And you can also see it on the web, on the internet. If you just go to websites like Twitter, you'll see a lot of krodha vegam, especially due to politics. But in devotees, rarely will you see a devotee who is politically charged. There may be one or two cases, but usually devotees don't bother so much with the political upheavals that are taking place in the country. So devotees have controlled krodha vegam. They don't waste their precious energy getting angry about things which they know definitely don't matter ultimately. So this was one way of controlling krodha vegam, which I specified last time, and many devotees are already practicing it. Now, moving ahead, before we move ahead, we should do something known as Simhavalokan. What is Simhavalokan? Simha Avalokan. Simha, many of us know, is lion, Narasimha. We have heard the term Narasimha. So Simha means lion, and Avalokan means the glance or the gaze. So the glance or the gaze of the lion is known as Simha Avalokan. Now, this is a technical term used in Nyaya Shastra to indicate that just as a lion, when he walks a few steps ahead, he turns behind and looks once. So after walking a few steps in Shastra, we should turn behind and see what we have studied. So this is known as Simha Avalokan, the gaze of the lion. So today, we are going to perform a little Simha Avalokan. So till now, we have studied Vegas, and there are a total of 6 Vegas that are going to be described in the first verse. Now, if we try to categorize them, Dhameshwar Prabhu, is there a way of categorizing these Vegas? Can we try to categorize these Vegas somehow?
I know that Srila Prabhupada joins the tongue, belly, and genitals in a group as
Right,
this like a relationship of cause and effect.
right,
And then Krodha Vega is related to Manasa Vega.
right.
And then Vacha Vegam is also related to Manasa Vegam.
All right.
So maybe mind and senses?
Very good. So you are very close, Prabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura originally categorized the Vegas into 3 broad categories. First is speech, Vegas related to speech. Second is Vegas related to mind. Third is Vegas related to body. So mind, speech, body. This is how they can be divided. Under speech, we will have only one Vega, and that is the first Vega, Vacho Vegam. Under Vegas pertaining to the mind, we will have twice the number. We have Manasaha Vegam and we have Krodha Vegam. And under Vegas pertaining to the body, we have the maximum number, 3 Vegas, Jihva Vegam, Udara Vegam, and Upastha Vegam. So this is the categorization of the Vegas according to Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura. So Vegas pertaining to Vani, speech, Vegas pertaining to Mana, mind, Vegas pertaining to Sharira, body. So these are the 3 types of Vegas. Now we have covered the Vegas related to speech and the Vegas related to mind. We are halfway through. Therefore, I wanted to do this little Simha Avalokan, lion gazing, because the next Vega is Vega pertaining to body, and that is Jihva Vegam. So today we are going to study that Vega, which is very difficult, yet very easy to control. So we will see what is Jihva Vegam, and we will see why it is very difficult to control this urge. So let's begin our discussion on the 4th Vega, which is Jihva Vegam. You see, as soon as we start discussing about Jihva Vegam, immediately images of nice prasadam, nice food come up in front of us. And then we start feeling somehow that the class was about Jihva Vegam, but somehow we started thinking about something else. So what is the meaning of the term Jihva? we should understand what is the meaning of the term Jihva. So this term is explained in various ways by various commentators and grammarians. So the term Jihva is explained by a famous grammarian Sri Narayana Bhatta as Jivanti Anaya. It's through her, Jihva is a feminine entity. So through her, Anaya, Jivanti, all living entities live. Through her, we survive. Therefore, she is known as Jihva. So this is from the verbal root, Sanskrit verbal root, Jiva Prana Dharane. The verbal root Jiva is used in the context of sustaining life, Prana Dharan. So this is the etymology of the term Jihva according to one grammarian. So Jihva is she, which is a Jihva is a feminine entity. So Jihva is she by whom all living entities live, sustain their lives. So this is one etymological definition of the term Jihva. Another definition is given by another famous commentator, Sri Durgasimha. He says, Bhuktva rasan jahati. On eating something, she immediately discharges rasas. Therefore, jahati. So from the term jahati comes jihva. So this is from the verbal root ongha tyage. So two different commentators giving two different etymologies of the term jihva. So in simple language, first commentator says that she is that entity through which all living entities survive. Second commentator says she is that entity who secretes rasas on eating anything. So what is the meaning of rasa here? So there is a different type of rasa which this commentator is speaking about. Our tongue secretes rasas. So Dāmeśvara Prabhu, do you believe that our tongue secretes rasas?
Yes.
Yes. Which rasas, Prabhu, does our tongue secrete?
Sweet, sour, bitter, salty, spicy.
Very nice. So you already know that besides the rasas which we have studied in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, besides the Bhakti rasas such as Shantaras, Dasyaras, Sakhyaras, Vatsalyaras, Madhuryaras, the term rasa is also used for bhojan rasa or for food related mellows. So these bhojan rasas are categorized into 6 types, which we will very shortly see. So the jihva or the tongue, she immediately secretes rasas when she eats something. So this is the etymology of the term jihva. So obviously, a vegam related to Jihva is known as Jihva vegam. Now, our acharyas have defined what is Jihva vegam. So we have to see how the acharyas have defined Jihva vegam. And Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura describes Jihva vegam. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says, what is Jihva vegam? He says, Madhura, Amla, Katu, Lavana, Kashaya, Tikta Bhede, Shada Vidha Rasa Lalasa Dvara. It has lalasa. As soon as we have the hankering, lalasa is hankering for Shad Vidha Ras, 6 types of rasas, for tasting the 6 types of rasas. What are the 6 types? So he has given the technical names: Madhura, Amla, Katu, Lavana, Kashaya, Tikta. But we need some simple explanation of these 6. So here are these 6. So first is Madhura. Madhura is sweet. Second is Amla. Amla is sour. Third is Katu. Katu is pungent. Fourth is Lavan. Lavan is salty. Fifth is Kashai. Kashai is astringent. And sixth is Tikta. Tikta is bitter. So Shadvidha rasa. These are 6 types of rasas. So to have a lalasa, to have a hankering for any one or more of these 6 types of rasas is categorized under Jihva vegam. So this is a very nice all-inclusive definition given by Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. So to have any lalasa, any hankering for any one or more of these 6 rasas. So these are not bhakti rasas, these are bhojan rasas. These are 6 rasas related to food. And that is known as Jihva vegam. Now, this was the definition by Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. Now comes the strict definition by Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura. So Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura, we have experience, from previous experience we know that his definitions are very strict and usually there is no scope of escaping. So Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says, first, to have lalasa for tasting any of the 6 rasas. Well, that we heard that from Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura. But this is just the first. This is not the only Jihva vegam. Besides this also, there are some additional Jihva vegams. So what is it? So he continues, to consume meat. So to consume flesh of any sort, basically. Especially the worst is fish. Why is fish considered to be the worst type of flesh? Because all the animals, when they die, usually all the dead animals fall in the river. And the fish consumes all the dead animals. The remnants of all the dead animals. And then we consume the remnants of those dead animals. So basically eating matsya mas, eating fish, is like eating all the dead animals that have fallen into the sea or the ocean. So therefore, the worst type of flesh is fish. So besides that, eggs. Then there is liquor. And then not only that, he says excess ghee, milk, sweets, etc. So this is what falls under Jihva vegam, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura. Now, for ghee, milk, sweets, he has added the term excess, ati, in the original. So he has not, for the other things, meat, fish, egg, liquor, any consumption of them becomes Jihva vegam. But for ghee, milk, sweets, etc., excess consumption becomes Jihva vegam. Because obviously devotees do consume ghee, devotees do consume milk and sweets, and maybe some devotees avoid milk altogether, but devotees usually do consume sweets. So therefore, excess of that is Jihva vegam. Now, what is excess? So this is the beauty of Vedic culture. Excess is what you decide is excess. Your body will tell you, your mind will tell you, now it's getting too much. So that is what excess is. So the spiritual master will say, this is too much. So that is what excess is. So excess for an ant and excess for an elephant are two different quantities. So we can't give the same, we can't have the same yardstick for two devotees. Therefore, excess. Now, excess you decide according to your good intelligence and consult with your gurus and decide what is excess for you. Because all of you want the best for yourselves in your spiritual life. So we don't want to cheat ourselves. So we will properly define what is excess for ourselves. So that is what Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says. Now he doesn't stop there. He says that sadhus, especially those who are renunciates, so they avoid excessively spicy food. So as renunciates, they should avoid excessively spicy food. So too much chili, they avoid. Then they avoid haritaki. So what is haritaki? So haritaki is one Ayurvedic medicine which is available either in powder form or it is available like this in solid form. It is used to increase one's sex drive, basically. That is what haritaki is. So sadhus avoid this. So this is another Ayurvedic herb. And besides that, sadhus avoid betel nut. So betel nut previously in India, almost all householders used to have betel nut. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a householder, used to have betel nut. Nityanand Prabhu used to have betel nut. Previously, in India, it was a common thing that householders will have betel nut. but sadhus will avoid betel nut. But Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura, he instructed all members of the Gaudiya Math, grihasthas or sannyasis or brahmacharis, everybody should avoid betel nut. So since that day, all members of Gaudiya Math and in Parampara, all members of ISKCON, they avoid betel nut and pan. Pan is nothing but that betel leaf mixed with various spices. And pan masala. Pan masala is that same pan which is in powdered format. That is pan masala, basically. So they avoid this. And smoking and intoxicants like marijuana, cannabis, opium, and other intoxicants, which includes tea and coffee. Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura was perhaps the first sadhu to, place a restriction on tea and coffee in the Gaudiya Math. Because as I said, the Britishers had introduced it for free and to get everyone addicted so that the East India Company could earn a hefty profit from India. But the result was that people were becoming addicted to tea and coffee. So in many other sampradayas, tea and coffee is a very normal thing. But Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura has restricted tea and coffee for Gaudiya Math, and in Parampara it has also become restricted for ISKCON. So that is what it is. This is considered as Jiva Vegam. Some people can't begin their day without coffee. You'll see in many offices, some people can't begin their day without coffee. So obviously it has made those people addicted. That's Jihva way. Then consuming onions, garlic, etc. is to be avoided. Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says. Why? Because there is a verse in the Manusmriti which says Lashunam Grinjanam Chaiva. Manusmriti, 5th chapter, 5th verse, which says onions, garlics. It also includes carrots. So carrots, mushrooms, these are to be avoided because they pull down the intelligence into lower modes. So therefore, these are to be avoided. Traditional sadhus in Vrindavan and Govardhan area, they also avoid carrots in their prasadam. So you will see, but in ISKCON we don't avoid carrots, but traditionally sadhus avoid carrots too. So this is also Jihva Vegam. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says, even if Mahaprasadam is very tasty, eating it is not Jihva Vegam. So if you are served Mahaprasadam and if it is very tasty, still if you eat it with the feeling that this is Mahaprasad, even if it is tasty, it is not Jihva Veg. But if you chase after Mahaprasad, you run here and there after Mahaprasad, simply trying to find some opulent prasadam, then it is certainly Jihva Vegam. So if some opulent prasad comes automatically to us without asking for it, and then we consume it considering it as Mahaprasadam, then he says there is not Jiva Vegam. But if we start chasing behind specific varieties of Mahaprasadam, then that becomes known as Jiva Vegam. So very clearly, eating opulent prasadam is not Jiva Vegam, provided it should come on its own and we should not run behind it. So this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura says about Jihva Vegam. Now, we should understand that there is something very special about Jihva. There's something in this Vegam which is unique about it. There is something very unique about Jihva or the tongue. So, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, there are many senses in our body. We have the eyes, we have the ears, we have the nose. What is special about Jihva that is not there in other senses?
The sense of taste?
That's okay. So every sense has its own unique reception. But what is so unique about Jihva that makes it so strong?
I'm getting a hint here, but is it that it's the urge to speak and to taste?
Okay. But I mean, today we are mainly here speaking about taste. Vachovegam is already done. We understand that Vachovegam is expressed through the Jihva. That we understand. But that was a separate way. So we'll not mix that here today. What is so special about Jihva? There's something very special about Jihva.
There's a lot of variety for the enjoyment.
That you can say is there for the eyes too.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'm just guessing at this point, Prabhuji.
Okay. No, no worries. I'm very happy that you're trying. So there is something very special about Jihva, that it has a very deep connection with the soul, a very intimate connection with the soul. And therefore, you see, people go and, people, sometimes we become bored with our day-to-day lives, and people go and say, I'm tired of, going to office every day. So it's a weekend. So let me go watch a movie. Somebody thinks like this. So he goes and watches a movie. So a person goes and watches a movie. So when he watches a movie, Dhāmeśvara, does he immediately start enjoying the movie, or does he have to like wait and understand the movie, what's going on, and then the enjoyment begins?
The latter.
The latter. So first he sits down, the movie begins, and it's often a risk. Sometimes the movie may be it may not be well directed, so it may end up being a completely boring movie. So he may not enjoy it all. So you see, this is enjoyment through the eyes and the ears. So a lot of effort has to be put before the actual enjoyment starts. Do you agree or not, Prabhu? Yes, 100%. But this is not the case with Jihva. Jihva is, you immediately give, it the first sense object and start enjoying, Prabhu. Have you seen this, Prabhu? This is, in India, we call it Pani Puri. Have you seen this, Damodara Prabhu?
Is that nut on the inside?
Yeah, but Prabhu, in India, this
Pistachio?
is, no, not pistachio, Prabhu. In India, this is a very famous recipe. Actually, it should be declared as a separate religion in India. The Pani Puri is like a separate religion in India, Prabhu. It has many devout followers. So if you are not yet converted, Prabhu, to this religion, I highly suggest that you give it a try. So, with Jihva, it is different. If you are unhappy, you just go and have one sense object and you immediately become happy. So let me give an American example. So it will be easy. Now it will become easier. Right? So you are unhappy, then you have one ice cream. Does it require any interpretation, anything, Prabhu? Or is it direct enjoyment?
Direct enjoyment.
100%. Yes, Prabhu. 100%. Direct enjoyment. On left hand side, you have you give an unhappy person and then you feed him an ice cream, and the result is a happy person. That's how simple it is. And it works every time. Dāmeśvara, if you watch the same movie twice, will you have the same enjoyment?
Probably not.
No. But if you have the same ice cream, maybe after a week, you'll have the same enjoyment, the same rasgulla. So therefore, people keep eating and eating and eating and eating. They don't realize when to stop. It has such an intimate connection with the soul that as soon as you consume something, the rasa immediately flows. And as I said in the previous talk, the soul requires some rasa. Therefore, people are always looking for something nice to eat. And did you notice something about this image, Prabhu? That even though people go to theaters, there's something additional in this image. Can you tell me, Prabhu, what it is?
Well, just in case the movie's not any good, he's got some popcorn.
Yes, 100%. So in case, you're not satisfied with the other Vegas, there's always popcorn, So there's always Jihva vegam to give you taste. So there is a reason why there is popcorn always in a theater, because often the movies are boring. And if there is no stimulation even for the tongue, then many people will leave and never come back. So therefore, see, it is Jihva vegam which is so intimately connected. to our soul. Because as soon as the jiva is given some input, it immediately starts experiencing rasa. Whereas for the other senses, it requires quite a lot of effort before you start experiencing rasa. So do you agree, Dhameshwar Prabhu, that there is a deep, intimate connection with the soul here?
Do you mean in the sense that the soul wants immediate enjoyment?
Yes, immediate gratification. That is available through Jihva. Immediately it is available through Jihva. So therefore, this deep connection is there between the conditioned tongue and the conditioned soul. So the conditioned tongue is immediately able to provide rasa, and the conditioned soul is also looking for some material rasa. So there is a very close connection between both of them. And therefore, there are names of the tongue mentioned in the dictionaries. So the Amar Kosh says it gives 3 names for the tongue. Rasagya, Rasana, Jihva. These are the 3 names. Jihva we already know. Another name is Rasagya. Rasagya means Rasam Janati. She understands all rasas. Therefore, she is Rasagya. She understands all the food rasas. Therefore, she is Rasagya. And she is Rasana. She makes you experience all the rasas. She makes the soul experience all these rasas. Although the soul is ultimately not the experiencer of material enjoyment, but she makes the soul think that it is experiencing enjoyment. So rasana. So rasagya, rasana, jihva. So her name is rasana. Rasyate anaya. By her, you experience rasa. And therefore, this connection is there between the conditioned soul and the conditioned tongue. And therefore, it is said in the Bhagavatam, a very nice verse is quoted in the Bhagavatam. Jihvayati pramathinya jano rasa vimohitah mrityum richatya sadbuddhir minastu badishairyatha. Jihvaya ati pramathinya jano rasa vimohita. Jano, a human, becomes rasa vimohita, enamored by the various rasas, enjoyed by jihvaya. Ati pramathinya. Ati pramathi, extremely voracious. So every human gets enamored by the various rasas enjoyed by the extremely voracious tongue. In this way, mrityam richati, the foolish human is trapped to death by the tongue, exactly like minastu badishair, exactly like a fish trapped on a hook. So therefore, it is very important to understand that just as fish are caught by the sense of taste, similarly, conditioned living entities are often caught in the cycle of repeated birth and death because of the sense of taste and because of abusing, the jihva, because of abusing the sense of taste by eating, as I said, as Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura specified, by eating non-vegetarian, drinking liquor, so on and so many things. Now, therefore, the Sanskrit poets, they instruct the jihva. They tell the jihva that you should know your limits. Oh jihva, oh tongue, you should know your limits. So poet sings, Jihve pramanam janihi bhojane bhashane picha ati bhuktirati voktihi sadyah pranapaharini. Jihve pramanam janihi bhojane bhashane picha. Jihve, oh tongue, pramanam janihi, know your limits when it comes to bhojana, food, and bhashana, speaking, because both are functions of the tongue. Bhojana, food, and bhashana, speaking. So know your limits when it comes to these 2 functions, because ati bhuktir, excessive bhojan, as well as ati bhukti, excessive bhashan, both can become the cause of death, prana paharini. So if you eat too much or if you speak too much, especially where you should not speak, it can even become the cause of death. So therefore, we all should understand that the sadhus have placed some restrictions on the jihva so that the jihva, the tongue, will not condition us into material existence. People think that they are enjoying through their tongue. But actually, in enjoying through the tongue, people lose out in the material world. There's a very, very important Sanskrit poet. His name was Bhartrihari. He was a king at one point of time, but later he became a renunciate. And later he wrote a very nice verse. Bhogana bhukta vayameva bhukta kalo na yato vayameva yatas trishnana jirna vayameva jirna. He said, Bhogana bhukta vayameva bhukta. I remember my Guru Maharaj, he quoted this verse once. It's a very important instruction. Bhogana bhukta. These delicacies were not consumed by us. Vayameva bhukta. Actually, we got consumed by them. So this is his realization after an entire lifetime of enjoyment. He said, Bhogana bhukta. We didn't enjoy these delicacies. Vayameva bhukta. These delicacies ended up consuming us and enjoying us. Kalo na yato. We thought we were spending time. No. That was a mistake. Vayameva yata. Actually, it was time that ended up spending us. And Trishnana jirna. Vayameva jirna. We thought that by enjoying our desires will wear out. But instead, we got worn out by our desires in our life. So these desires pour us out. It's very important to understand that in trying to enjoy, especially through the tongue, we become consumed. When we enter a supermarket, we enter with the feeling that we are the consumers. Everything here is for us. But actually, it is we who are being consumed. It is we who are being consumed. Our life is being consumed. Secondly, so much time is being spent simply trying to find one option amongst thousands of options, and then finding it, and then cooking it, and then making so many elaborate preparations, and finally in eating it. And therefore we get consumed by all of these enjoyments. And after eating also, we keep reminiscing it. Oh, it was very nice. We should cook it again sometime. So, bhogana bhukta vayameva bhukta. We were consumed by these enjoyments. So very, very nice verse. Very nice verse, actually. Sri Vyasadeva therefore says that true conquest of senses is attained only when one conquers the tongue. Otherwise, you may conquer everything else. But if the tongue is not conquered, then you have not really conquered the senses. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, very nice verse is mentioned. This is in the song of Pingala. So this verse occurs in that song. Tavajjitendriyo nasyad vijitanyendriyah puvan najayet rasanam yavat jitam sarvam jite rase. Tavajjitendriyo nasyad. Till that time one doesn't control all the senses. Vijita anya endriya puman. A human may have controlled all other senses. But till the time, na jayet rasanam yavat, till the time he has controlled his tongue, he has not really controlled his senses. Why? Because jitam sarvam jite rase. Jite rase. Once the rasana, once the tongue is conquered, jitam sarvam, everything is conquered. So this is Sri Vyasadev's clear message. That although one may conquer all of the other senses, as long as the tongue is not conquered, it cannot be said that one has controlled his senses. However, if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. So, dear devotees, it's a very important instruction. And I said, why is the tongue so important? It is very closely connected with the conditioned soul. It's very closely connected. It gives immediate rasa to the conditioned soul. Therefore, you might have seen, it's a primal nature of every living entity. When they become unhappy, the first thing they try to find is food. That's it's in the I think it's called primal nature. It's a primal instinct of every living entity. When they become unhappy, they try to find food. So, and there was one man when I visited the United States. There was one person. He recently got, divorced. So he got divorced and he was very unhappy. So I asked him, "What do you do, in order to relieve your sense of unhappiness?" He said, "I eat tubs of ice cream. That's what I eat tubs of ice cream." So Dhameshwar Prabhu, is that a good way of relieving unhappiness?
It's just a distraction. It doesn't actually make your life situation any better.
Of course. But in the immediate run, that's
Is
what
it effective?
Yeah.
It's so effective that it's like a theme,
Yeah.
in TV and movies.
Right.
Someone's depressed, they have a breakup or they lose their job or whatever, and they're just on the couch eating ice cream.
It acts like therapy, Prabhu. Therefore, eating ice cream should be declared as a religion. Yeah, in the United States, eating ice cream is a separate religion in itself. Forget Christianity, Hinduism, Islam. Eating ice cream, should be turned into a religion. And
We even have vegan ice cream.
yeah, we have vegan ice cream now. So see, even devotees can have. And those who are vegans, they can also have ice cream. So I was surprised when I went to the United States. I found something. There is a nature store, 365 it's called. So there I saw a Coke which was decaffeinated. For the first time in my life, somebody, had decaffeinated Coke. And, I thought they have gone to extreme extents. I think they have studied all people on planet Earth. And they found that some people who drink Coke, but who don't want the caffeine. So for them, we'll have decaffeinated Coke. So you see, they have invented so many varieties of Jihva vegam, so many varieties of Jihva vegam, that it is very difficult to control. So, although the problem is very difficult, the solution is very simple. In this case, for Jihva vegam, the solution is very simple. The solution is that you use the same weapon, which is attacking you. You use it against itself by turning it into Mahaprasadam. So this is the solution given by all the acharyas. The Srimad Bhagavatam gives a beautiful verse about this. The nice verse. Tvayopabhukta sragandha vaso lankara charchita uchchishta bhojino dasas tavamayam jayemahi. This is from the 11th canto. So simply by decorating ourselves with the garlands, fragrant oils, clothes, and ornaments that you have already enjoyed, and simply by eating the remnants of your meals, uchchishta bhojino, dasas, we servants, we your servants, tava mayam jayema, will indeed conquer your illusory energy, Maya. It's a very nice, I love this verse, that simply by enjoying, we will conquer your Maya. Dāmeśvara Prabhu, how does this verse sound? Simply by enjoying what you have already enjoyed, we will conquer your Maya.
It just sounds like such a wonderful path of joy and chanting and dancing and feasting. Kevala Ananda Kanda.
Right. So, pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartum avyayam. Oh, it is seen practically. Although we have promises of the afterlife, every religion has promises of the afterlife. So the Hare Krishnas also have promises of the afterlife. But not only the afterlife, we also give you happiness, which is pratyaksha, which you experience directly in this life. So that happiness also. So happy in this life and definitely happy in the next life, 100%. But happiness in this life too. And how? So we decorate ourselves with garlands and fragrant oils. So you see, devotees, they love fragrances. Devotees have a good culture of fragrances. Devotees have a good culture of wearing garlands. Devotees wear clothes and ornaments of all shades and colors. So when I visited the United States, It was only the devotees who were dressed in all the colorful colors. Other people, many other people were wearing gray, black, or professional blue, or something like that. So that's what most people wear, and that's how most of the buildings are also colored. They're colored in red, brown. Especially if you go to New York, that's how all the buildings are colored. They're all colored in a depressing brown and gray color. So, but see how the devotee temples are, how the devotees dress. So people, especially during Rath Yatra, the main attraction is the clothes. Of course, the main attraction is Lord Jagannath, but the second main attraction is how the devotees are dressing and chanting and dancing, how colorful the entire event is. So devotees have a rich culture of enjoyment even in this world. And devotees should take full advantage of this culture. So eating the remnants of your meals, take full advantage of this. But Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura has said, avoid excess. Please remember, this instruction is very important. Avoid excess. So ati sarvatra varjayet. Excess of anything should be avoided. So excess ghee, excess milk products, excess sweets, this will lead to disturbances in the body and mind, and therefore these should be avoided. So what is his intention behind saying this? His intention is not that he wants to prevent your sense enjoyment. His intention is that he wants you to have a peaceful mind for bhajan. So every devotee should understand where to set the limit, and accordingly every devotee should stop at that point. So this is what we should understand. We will conquer Maya, by eating the remnants offered to you. And this Jihva vegam is also, there's something very nice about this, that if somebody fails in the other vegas, let's say somebody fails in upastha vega, controlling his genitals, it is termed as a fall down. Often it is termed as a fall down. But suppose somebody fails in controlling Jihva vega and ends up eating, some nice prasadam, it's not termed as a fall down. Do we term it as a fall down, Dhāmeśvara? Sometimes somebody overeats.
Never. Only
Never.
if they eat meat.
Yeah, only if they. Devotees are, devotees are rarely attracted to eating any sort of food. But some devotees are attracted to eating opulent food. But eating opulent food is not considered as a fall down. Even once in a while, let's say somebody breaks the limit of overeating and overeats. Still, nobody says, oh, he fell down. Oh, Hari Pārṣada Das, on Janmashtami he was okay, but on Prabhupada appearance day he fell down. The people will not say like this. Why? Because once in a while, sometimes you overeat. So it is not considered exactly as a fall down. And also Gaudiya Vaishnava culture is like that. Gaudiya Vaishnava culture is it's till the neck. They feed you till the neck. That's what Gaudiya Vaishnava culture is. So what to do? So sometimes obviously it will be difficult to avoid overeating, but we have been given the warning that we should not run behind it. It's not that every Sunday I am, I'm going to Govindas, and every Sunday I am having a good feast simply because I like to eat at Govindas. So we should have all types of prasadam. And another question is, is prasadam, the prasadam that we eat, is it material or is it spiritual? Because it looks like the same food. It looks like exactly the same food, cooked in the same oils, cooked in the, or fried, or, roasted or baked in the same ovens. So isn't prasadam the exact same thing, Prabhu, as ordinary food, Dāmeśvara Prabhu?
No. Yes and no. It's the material, but it's been transubstantiated into something spiritual.
Okay, very nice. So although it externally looks the same, but it has been transformed. But transformed by whom, Dāmeśvara Prabhu?
Swarup Shakti Vritti.
Yes, very nice. Oh, you read the answer. See, very nice. So Srila Jiva Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu commentary, श्री भगवतः स्वरूप शक्ति वृत्ति रूपम अतो अप्राकृतम अपि कायादि वृत्ति तादात्म्येनैव तत्र तत्र आविर्भूतम इति. So actually this bhakti is a function of the Swarup Shakti of Bhagavan. And therefore, although she is completely non-material, there is nothing material about any aspect of bhakti, but she voluntarily becomes one with the functions of the body, mind, etc. and thus appears in the material world. So let me make this very simple. See, there is nothing, eating is a material activity. Eating food is a material activity. But Bhakti Devi, she becomes one with that activity of eating. And Bhakti Devi is non-material. So she becomes one with that activity. And when she becomes one with that activity, although it externally seems like a material activity, but it transforms that activity into something completely non-material. And therefore, eating also becomes bhakti. One of the 64 limbs of Krishna Bhakti is to eat prasadam, naivedya. So one of the 64 limbs of bhakti is to simply honor prasadam. So why is honoring prasadam bhakti? Because when we are honoring prasadam, through our material senses we are consuming. But because it is connected to Bhagavan, therefore his bhakti shakti becomes one with the functions of our senses. And therefore it doesn't generate any reaction for us, and instead it generates bhakti for us. So therefore, eating prasadam is not material. Prasadam itself is not material. How do we know prasadam is not material? Every time we are singing Mahaprasade Govinde Nam Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. That people who have little faith, they don't understand that they should have complete faith in Mahaprasad and Lord Govinda as being completely spiritual entities. So those who are having sufficient pious credit, they understand that prasadam is not a material substance. What to speak about Mahaprasadam, especially the Mahaprasadam of Jagannath Puri. About Mahaprasadam, it is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shushkam Parishitam Vapi Nitam Va Dure Deshatah Prapti Matrena Bhoktavyam Natra Kala Vicharana. So Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said this. One should eat Mahaprasadam of the Lord immediately upon receiving it, even though it is shushkam, dried up, paryushitam, stale, nitam va duradeshatah, bought from a distant country. Prapti matrena bhoktavyam. One should, without considering time or place, one should immediately honor Mahaprasadam of Lord Jagannath. So this is the Mahima, this is the glory of Mahaprasadam. So although we had a very terrible enemy against us, but we were able to utilize the power of that enemy against itself. And therefore, it has reduced to becoming a very feeble enemy. So therefore, if we simply honor prasadam, if devotees can take care that they simply honor prasadam, then they will definitely be able to conquer this vegam, and they will be able to happily situate themselves in their spiritual lives. I'll finally conclude my speech with a heartfelt prayer to Bhagavan. This prayer is offered by Srila Rupa Goswami. So previously we did not have this Mahaprasade Govinde prayers during the time of the 6 Goswamis, because this prayer was composed by Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura, Sharira Avidya Jal Jadendriya Kahikal. So during the 6 Goswamis time, they had different prayers for offering Mahaprasadam. So one such prayer is there in the Padyavali, and this prayer is very nice. This prayer is by Sri Ramanuja originally, and Srila Rupa Goswami has compiled it in Padyavali. The meter of this verse is Shikharini. Dvijastrinam bhakte mridu nivedurane vrajagavam dadhikshire sakhyusputa chipita mushtau muraripo Yashodaya stanye vrajayuvade dakte madhunite Yatha sidamodastamimamupahare pikurutam. So Sri Ramanujacharya prays to Bhagavan Krishna. Dvijastrinam bhakte. O Lord Murari, I hope that just as you enjoyed the palatable food offered by the Dvijastri, by the wives of the Brahmanas, Mridu Nivedurane, and the sweet meal offered by Vidura, Vrajagavam, Dadhikshire, and the Dadhikshira, milk and yogurt of the Vrajagavam, of the cows of Vraja, and Sputa Chipita Mushtau, and Sakyu, and in the chipped rice of your friend, of your Sakha Sudama, Yashodaya Stanye, and in the breast milk of Mother Yashoda, the affection that you showed. And Vraja Yuvati Datte Madhunite, and all the delicious preparations of the gopis of Vraja. They used to prepare so many sweets. There's a separate verse for all the sweets that the gopis prepare. So the affection that you showed in all these varieties of food, Tam imam upahare pikurta. Oh Bhagavan, please show that same affection in this particular offering too. And there's one thing we should note about Shri Krishna. There's one thing we should note about Shri Krishna. Krishna never eats alone. Please know this thing. Krishna never eats alone. Dāmeśvara Prabhu, have you ever seen Krishna eating alone?
No, it's unheard of.
Yes. Even when he stole yogurt, he distributed it to the monkeys. So even in Damodara Lila, even when he stole it, he gave it to the monkeys. So there's a devotee poet, Sri Harisuri. He says at that point, Kevalagho bhavati kevaladi. Actually, Krishna is the original author of all the Vedas. And in the Vedas, Krishna has himself written. In the Rig Veda, it is said, Kevalagho bhavati kevaladi. A person who eats alone eats only sin. Please remember this. A person who eats alone eats only sin. One good way of controlling Jihva vegam is, if you get something nice, please distribute it. Especially if you get a sweet, don't make the mistake of eating alone. Today's culture is very different. Today, a person usually, has no time to have food with his family, his or her family. What they do is they usually have, what is it called? To go. I don't know to go where, but to go boxes. So I don't know where they're going, but to go. So they pack in to go boxes and then they to go office. And in the office, they open that to go box and they eat cold food alone. So this is not, what it is supposed to be. So this to go, eating this from these to go boxes, that too alone, it can make us go into lower species of life. So we don't want to go into lower species of life. So therefore, even if we have to go boxes, we should share with somebody. We should share. So kevalagho bhavati kevaladi. A person who eats alone eats only sin. Please remember this, dear devotees. Especially if you have some sweets, don't think that I will enjoy everything alone and I will be, I'll be very happy eating everything by myself. That's a big loss. So before we eat, and Prabhupada always used to say this, a Grihastha's duty is before he eats, he should try to find if there are some living entities who are still dissatisfied, who are hungry. It's a Grihastha's duty to feed hungry living entities. So every Grihastha should make an attempt to feed sweets, to feed prasadam to other devotees, to other living entities. All living entities are looking up to the Grihastha ashram. They are looking to the Grihastha ashram with great expectation that it is this ashram which will feed us. So if the Grihasthas become miserly, then it will be very difficult. So dear devotees, with folded hands, I pray to you. I request all of you, especially those who are Grihasthas, please don't eat alone. Please find some time to eat with your family. And please find some time to spend it with your family. Often people eat together, but what they're doing is they're switching on the TV. So it's like the TV is talking to all of them and they're not talking to each other. So that's not family time. Family time is when you get time to talk to each other. That's family time. So I recently saw it was in the news that there's a restaurant in Melbourne, Australia, which offers 10% discount if everybody keeps away their cell phones. So the parents love it. You can search it on Google. There's a restaurant in Australia which offers 10% discount if people keep away their cell phones. So the parents love it because they have to pay less, but the kids hate it because they can't be on their cell phones. So, but still, it is good family time. So we should have that, dear devotees, just like Krishna. Krishna never eats alone. Krishna always eats with his family, with his friends. And we want to be in that culture. So with this, dear devotees, I would like to thank all of you. Especially, I would like to thank Dhameshwar Prabhu for so kindly organizing all these sessions. And he's present here today. It's such a nice, expression of service by him. It's a very important day in his life. Actually, a daughter is very dear to the father. He said, daughter is very dear to the father. Daughter automatically becomes very dear to the father. So he's the father, and today he's blessed with a daughter. So we once again congratulate you, Prabhu, and we sincerely hope that all your, devotional desires that you have, or devotional expectations that you have from her, they are fulfilled by her. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's really heartwarming to hear that.
Hare Krishna.
I'd like to share a shloka.
Right.
Jife rasagye madhura priyatvam satyam hitam tam paramam badami avarnayata madhuraksharani govinda damodara madhaveti. So the poet's addressing his tongue. It's from the Govinda Damodar Stotra by Bilvamangala Thakur. He's addressing his tongue. He says, "My dear tongue, you're familiar with all different types of tastes, and out of all those tastes, you know that the best one is sweetness. So I'll give you a little hint. If you want to taste the sweetest thing possible, then just always articulate the sweet names Govinda, Damodar, and Madhava."
Beautiful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing that wonderful verse. Hare
So we
Krishna.
go to questions now, and
Yes.
we can start with Ananga Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thanks a lot again for such a wonderful class. Prabhuji, it's regarding Mahaprasad. There is one question. There is one book, Braj. So I read that book, and there is one incident happened with Jai Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, and he approached his Shiksha Guru, Jai Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj in Govardhan. So Siddha Krishna Babaji Maharaj has some problem, sex urges, and he approached his Shiksha Guru, and he told him that I am taking Mahaprasad of the Govind Dev Ji for a considerable amount of time, but even though I am facing this sex urge, and he told him that there once a prostitute donated some money to the Govind Dev Ji temple, and it was taken by the pujari and offered rajbhogs and other stuffs to the Lord, and then it was taken by the various Vaishnavas there. Right. And after that day, they have bad dreams in the night, and when they approached the pujari, then pujari told that this is the anna of the prostitute, and that's why it has happened. And they become angry with the Lord Govind Dev, and then Govind Dev came in the dreams of the Vaishnavas and told them that I am capable of eating such a Mahaprasad, but you are not able to take it. So my question is that just like we consider that Mahaprasad is as you told that Mahaprasad is sanctified food offered to the Lord, and then we consume it, it purifies our intelligence because
Right.
the Bhakti Shakti appeared in the material. But when we consume, because of this incident, if the Annadosh is there in Mahaprasad also, then how is the hope for us?
So let me rephrase the question. You read a pastime in which Siddha Krishnadas Babaji, he became, materially affected even though he had accepted Mahaprasadam of Govind Dev temple. And as a result,
Yeah.
they tried to find out, and they found out that it came from a source which was not favorable to the Vaishnavas. And then they lodged a complaint with Govind Devji, and then Govind Devji appeared in their dreams. So this obviously seems like a pastime for Govind Devji to appear in the dreams of the sadhus. It's done something deliberately by Bhagavan in order to do some lila. It doesn't seem like a day-to-day routine. Day-to-day Siddhanta is when you offer something to Bhagavan, it becomes purified. See, everybody offers their earnings to Bhagavan, whether it is a person who's earning by legitimate means or whether they are earning by not so legitimate means. So everybody has a right to offer everything to Bhagavan. And we shouldn't distinguish in that. If somebody is offering their earnings to Bhagavan, we shouldn't distinguish. And it is Bhagavan who can purify everything and everyone. So if Bhagavan can purify Putana's poison, Bhagavan can purify so many entities, then Bhagavan can definitely purify, these offerings, even though their source may be dubious. So we cannot stay in fear that, from where are we getting this prasadam? We can't stay in fear like this. So we have to trust Mahaprasadam. So we have to honor Mahaprasadam with trust. So if that trust is not there, then we will definitely be, always in a sense of doubt. And wherever there is a doubt as far as food is concerned, it leads to a lot of distress. So therefore, it is best to trust Mahaprasadam, and especially Mahaprasadam from reputed Vaishnav sources or reputed Vaishnav temples. This may be a one-off incident for Bhagavan to perform some lila of appearing in front of the devotees, but it should not be accepted as a general Siddhanta. The general Siddhanta is that everybody who donates, obviously, not everybody's sources of income are so clean, but still Bhagavan accepts. For example, the Madan Mohan temple, which was built in Vrindavan, was perhaps the first Gaudiya Vaishnava temple. It was built by the money of one businessman, Kapoor. He was earning business by, trading salt and so many things to, various countries outside India. Who knows from where the money came from those countries. So we don't know. But still that money was used by Sanatana Goswami to construct Madan Mohan temple. So you should have that confidence. And once some exceptional lila may happen once in a while. So we should not consider that as the general Siddhanta. So that is the solution to your query. All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji,
just again a counter question on that. When Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura was there, he suggested his disciple that you should perform very strict Nam Bhajan, because in the Matha there is a lot of contribution from unknown sources. So if you eat that and do not perform that much Nam Bhajan, then your bhajan can be spoiled. So how can we understand? Because this is similar type of situation also.
Right. So in Srila Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakura's time, most of the devotees, especially whom he was instructing, were residents of the Matha. And residents of the Matha who are not working outside, obviously a lot of time is saved. A lot of time is saved. What will they do? So they have to obviously engage in spiritual life, because if they don't engage in spiritual life, then material consciousness will obviously take over, and it will also start reflecting in the prasadam. So therefore, his instruction was very clear that you first and foremost use all this time to perform quality bhajan. And once you perform quality bhajan, even if the food is, or even if the other things are dubious, the sources of income or the sources of food are dubious, still it becomes, it will not affect you so much. So that is what it is. And even for a grihastha, it doesn't mean that a grihastha should also keep his bhajan strong. Not that it is only an instruction for the residents of the matha. As long as your bhajan is strong, you may eat, and that eating will not have any negative effect. There's a very nice verse which reminds me. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to eat nicely. When he visited Kashi, he used to eat nicely. There was a Maharashtrian Brahmin. So this Maharashtrian Brahmin, he used to feed nice prasadam to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to eat nicely. So these impersonalists, they got a hint of this, and they started criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he's a sannyasi and he loves to eat sweets. So the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were obviously hurt by this. So they wrote a verse to reply to the Mayavadis, to the impersonalists. Simho bali dvirata shukara mamsa bhoji. That verse, I remember the first line. That a lion is so strong, it eats even a wild boar. But even though a lion eats wild boars, it only mates once or twice a year. Whereas pigeons, they eat some grains, here and there, but they are mating every day. So tell us, is there any connection between eating and mating? So this was, finally, there is not such a big connection. The main thing is one's previous samskaras and how strong of a bhajan one is performing. So this was the conclusion of that verse. The Padyavali is also saying like that. Kashayan nacha bhojanadi niyaman. Simply by regulating your food, don't think that you will conquer lust. Don't think like this. So Saubhari was not eating for so many years. Saubhari Muni, without eating anything, still he became attracted by lust. So it's very worshipable. Saubhari Muni is very great. But that example is just to prove that eating and material desires, they have some connection, but not such a strong connection. What matters mainly is your bhajan. So I hope that is clear.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ruji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now Vrinda Sundari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was thinking of Raghunath Goswami and how he, at one point, he was only taking a little bit of buttermilk every day.
Right.
And so, he's considered a renunciate because of his lifestyle. At the same time, was it not that he was doing that because that was like just, he was getting nourished in a different way, so he didn't necessarily need to be nourished through Jihva?
Yes, 100%. So only when it became very natural for him did he gradually give up, all other varieties of gratification of Jihva. We have seen in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, initially he used to purchase prasadam from the Jagannath Puri temple, Raghunatha Dasa Goswami. After a few days, he gave up purchasing and started begging. And after a few days, he stopped begging and just collected what was left by the animals. So this, although it is described in a few subsequent verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but he took his time to switch from one stage to another. Finally, what is the aim of a renunciate? The aim of a renunciate is to spend as less time as possible in cooking and acquiring food. That is the aim. That to save time is the main aim of a renunciate. So fasting days are very joyous days for renunciate. You don't have to cook anything. It's like all day bhajan. So that's a very nice day for a renunciate because he doesn't have to go and beg anywhere, nothing like that. So in Ekadashi, they perform nice bhajan and they keep awake throughout the night. And this they do out of their own taste. So they try not to force themselves into doing these things. So a devotee also, when they gradually become mature, they voluntarily give up and they voluntarily learn to control their Jihva. And that is what is expected from the devotee. So not every devotee is expected to rise up to the standard of Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami. But an example has been set. So what can we do? What we can do is, we can follow the Ekadashis nicely, the fasting days nicely. And fasting days, we try to keep the stove as cold as possible. So if we can ensure that, then it will be a great time saver for all of us. Srila Jiva Goswami, he instructed Narottam Das Thakur something. He said that if you want to live the life of a renunciate, then make sure that your food never touches fire. So basically, then what options are remaining is uncooked food like fruits, or maybe you take some flour and wheat flour and then put it in put some water and make some ball out of it, or something. They used to make something like that, but not many options. So when the options are limited, because Jiva Goswami has said that a renunciate's food should ideally not touch fire. So then the renunciate becomes clear in his or her mind. Well, that's what it is. I don't have to worry so much about cooking. So it's a lot of time is saved. So what will I do? Obviously, I'll use it for my bhajan. So saving time is the prime concern here. So necessity is the mother of, invention. So that's what we say. So the necessity here is saving time. And that's why all these techniques are there to save time. As long as your aim is there, that you want to save as much time as possible, then you can definitely do that. We see in the United States, just to cook something, first you have to go to the superstore. It's not like this in India. In India, it's just below my home, there is a vegetable vendor. It's just outside the home. Just go 2 minutes and get something. And no, it's not like that in the US. You take your vehicle and drive far away to the superstore. And sometimes you have to go to the Indian store to get select spices. And then you can come home and then you cook, and 3 hours are lost. And after a few days, you'll go, oh my goodness, am I going to do this throughout my life? So obviously the mind is going to say, no, I'm not going to do this throughout my life. So there has to be some way of saving time. So the way of saving time is Ekadashi and other fasting days. So it detoxifies your body and gives you a lot of time, save that time. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the sense of hearing and the sense of like seeing and hearing, those things we can survive without. But then it seems like the sense of taste, it's connected to eating, which we could not subsist without eating, right?
Exactly.
But it seems like when it comes to mating and eating and mating, if there wasn't a rasa connected to those things, we probably wouldn't do it.
Right. But even between eating and mating, there are some individuals who don't have any desire to find a partner. Some people, in modern terminology, those people are called as asexuals. So basically, they don't have a desire to find a partner, or they don't like to be in a relationship. But you won't find a person who doesn't want to eat. You won't find a person. Therefore, I said it's very intimately connected to the conditioned soul. The tongue is very intimately connected to the conditioned soul. And a person can live without all the other senses, and but not without the sense of eating and tasting. It's one of the most primal instincts and urges of every living entity, because immediate access to rasa. Even for, let's say, finding a partner or a mate, it's a lot of effort. It's not like you purchase from the supermarket and like food. It's not like that. It's so much effort is required. Like you go on a date and try to find compatibility. Oh my goodness, who will take that headache? So people try to find one person and then they try to be happy with them. So that's what it is. So eating is not like that. Thousands of options in the superstore, and you just select anyone, and all options are ready to satisfy your tongue immediately without any extra effort. You don't need to go on a date with your food. You can just directly consume your food. That's why.
No counseling needed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Guru.
Thank you.
Sadananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhuji. I want to ask about the Raghunath Das Goswami's example. Like, he used to take money from his parents to get prasad and feed the Vaishnavas, but later he realized that taking money from parents is bad. Like, that parents' money is not good, like his father and his chacha, and is not. So, what about that example? And another question also is related to Mahaprasad. I will ask it later.
Your voice went on and off, but I got some of your first question. That you asked about Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. He was initially accepting money from his parents, but later he gave up that. And what about that? Well, what about that? Well, it's not supposed, a renunciate is not supposed to take resources from the family. Initially, a renunciate may take resources from the family. For example, in the sannyas ashram, there are 4 types of sannyasis: Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrajak, and Paramhams. A Kutichak is allowed to take resources from the family. That's the first stage of sannyas. So the family may give some resources to the Kutichak. The second stage, second stage onwards, he should not accept. So although Raghunath Das Goswami was not exactly in the sannyas ashram, but he saw that even sannyasis, they only initially accept resources from the family, not later. And so in the second stage of sannyas, you have to stop accepting resources from the family. So Sri Raghunath Das Goswami also increased his renunciation and stopped accepting from his family, and increased his dependence upon Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So Krishna is feeding the 84 lakh species of life. You see, in the dog on the street, Krishna is feeding. So the dog on the street is no anxiety, somehow or other food will come. The birds on the tree, they don't have that anxiety. They know somehow or other food will come. The one species was a lot of anxiety. They want to make a career first to ensure that there is food on the table. So that species is human being. So because they think that without making a career, I will not have food on the table. Now, all other 83,99,999, they don't need to make a career for putting food on the table. You see, only human beings need to have a career to put food on the table. So Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to get rid of this feeling that Krishna will provide. I am one of the 84 lakh species, human being. Krishna will provide to me as he is providing to everybody else. Having this faith is called Sharanagati. Krishna is my protector, Krishna is my maintainer. These are limbs of Sharanagati. So that's what Raghunath Das Goswami was practicing. So this was my reply to your first query, but this is for renunciates. Don't try doing this in household life. It will be disastrous in householder life. So in householder life, we should accept from our family because that is our adhikar. So, but in renunciates have to accept from people besides one's family. So that is my answer to your first query.
Yeah, Prabhuji. I have heard about this, like one thing. Like people people say like first do some job, earn some money, get self-dependent for getting food, then do your bhajan. First get self-dependent for food, earn for food, and then do bhajan. And now my second question.
Yeah, see, the Indian people say like this: first fulfill your material duties, then do your bhajan. It's a very commonly popular thing said in India. Balance everything. Only in India, 100%. Balance everything. There is no balance in life. You try to balance everything, you will fall off balance. So decide where do you want to go. Either you want to take to bhajan, or you want to take to material life. Because Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Varunidik gatam vastu vrajam indrim kim apnuyat. An object lost in the west cannot be found in the east. He says in Madhurya Kandibini. So they are very clear. Acharya is very clear in their minds. They don't try to do this monkey balancing. Modern Indians do that. So please don't fall into the propaganda of modern Indians that you have to monkey balance your spiritual life. That is not what it is. Of course, some balance you have to maintain, but ultimately no balance will survive. Ultimately, if you don't take to the path of dedicated bhajan, then you will not be able to walk on the path of bhajan. Devotional service is full-time occupation, even for the grihasthas. Please try to understand. It's not part-time occupation for the devotional service is full-time occupation, even for the grihasthas. So that is what. But you wanted to ask something. Yes, I'm sorry I interrupted
Yeah,
you.
yeah. My second question was from Harivan Sampradaya. People say that you say the prasadam is transcendental. Then how on Ekadashi the prasadam becomes and it is not transcendental? We should eat every day the prasad. It is same transcendental.
Right. So prasadam is transcendental. So how on Ekadashi does prasadam become non-transcendental? No, not a Ekadashi. It doesn't become non-transcendental or nothing like that. When anything is offered to Vishnu, it becomes pure. Yeah, of course, it is said that the grains become impure on Ekadashi, so on and so forth. But those are grains which are not offered to Vishnu. Grains which are offered to Vishnu definitely have no trace of impurity in them, because anything offered to Vishnu becomes pure. Yagya shishta sinah santah muchyante sarva kil bishay is said in the Bhagavad Gita. By eating what is offered, by eating remnants, you become free of reactions. So why don't we eat it on Ekadashi then? We don't eat it on Ekadashi because Bhagavan has specifically instructed that we should not consume grains on Ekadashi. That is our reason for not eating on Ekadashi. Our reason for not eating on Ekadashi is not because food becomes impure. Food offered to Vishnu never becomes impure. The food offered to Vishnu is pure. Even on Ekadashi, it is pure. It is not impure. But because Bhagavan Vishnu himself expects the devotees to have a day of fasting and increased remembrance, because the acharyas also expect the same, because our guru also expects the same, that is our reason for not accepting anna on Ekadashi. So that is our main reason, not because some impurity enters. That impurity enters in grains that are not offered to Vishnu, not in grains which have been offered to Vishnu. So I hope that is clear.
Yeah, thanks. Dhanwad.
Manjri Devi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I'd just like to express my gratitude to both Hari Prabhu for these wonderful sessions and also for all the organizers that we've been able to connect. It's both very enlightening, nourishing, and so much to contemplate, and also full of rasa for the ears. My question connects to the Srimad Bhagavatam verse mentioned from the 11th canto, chapter 8, verse 21, which says that one is understood to be in full control of all the senses when the tongue is controlled. Could you maybe elaborate on this a little? Like, how is the sense of hearing controlled by controlling the tongue, or how are other senses controlled by controlling the tongue?
Right. So let me take you back to that verse where Sri Vyasadeva is saying, Tavat jitendriyo na syat vijitanyendriyah puman na jayet rasanam yavat jitam sarvam jiteras. So if one is able to control the tongue, then one is understood to be in full control of all the senses. So the question is, how can one control the sense of hearing or the sense of sight if one controls the tongue? So that is the question. So this verse is in the mood of a nyaya called as Pradhan Malla Nyaya. Pradhan Malla Nyaya means the maxim of the chief wrestler. So in a wrestling arena, if you are able to defeat the chief wrestler, other wrestlers are nothing, basically. Easily you will defeat them. So this is the mood. It is not a cause and effect that by controlling the tongue, automatically you will control everything else. If you want to see cause and effect relationship, then that is with the mind. By controlling the mind, everything else is controlled. That is the cause and effect relationship. But here the mood is Pradhan Malla Nyaya, the logic of the chief wrestler. If you can defeat the chief wrestler, then other wrestlers will run away. Then you don't have to fear so much. So that is the mood of the verse. So that this Nyaya, Pradhan Malla Nyaya, the logic of the chief wrestler, is used to explain situations like this. So once you are able to conquer the main wrestler, then others will be fearful of you. They know that this person has the caliber of beating his tongue or her tongue. Then they will not give you so much trouble. So that is what it is. A person who is not addicted to his or her tongue, usually you will find that they'll easily be able to control all other impulses of the other senses. Once they are able to control. Because Pradhan Malla, they defeated the prime wrestler who was fighting against them. So I hope that this clarifies.
Wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
Alex.
Prabhuji, it seemed like Srila Prabhupada made a cause and effect relationship. Like you'd say it's a straight line, tongue, belly, genitals.
Of course. But that is only between these three. Her question was about hearing. Therefore, I said, there is a cause and effect between tongue, belly, and genitals. I agree to that. That's Bhaktivinode Thakura, not even Srila Prabhupada. It's come from before him. But she's asking about other senses. So, therefore, I said, there has to be a way to explain how conquering the tongue, one is automatically able to conquer other senses. So, that is why it is.
Thank you for that clarification. Radha Kunj Bihari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, Prabhu.
Hope
Sorry about that.
you all are doing well. It's coming from the statement earlier made in this class, but it's totally out of context of today's class about krodha vegam. Can I ask that question, Prabhu?
Yes, yes. But first, I would like to say that this is the voice of Srinath Prabhu. And Radha Kunj Bihari are his worshipable deities. So this is Srinath Prabhu. Hare Krishna Srinath Prabhu. I hope you are doing good, Prabhuji. You're keeping good health.
Thank you, Prabhu. So the statement I heard was like devotees, they should avoid, krodha vegam. So I need more clarification on this. I still need to catch up on previous class, but because of my work situation, I'm not able to do so. So if it is clarified in previous class, I can go.
Yeah. So I specified a lot in the previous class, but I'll give a simple, a short summary of what I discussed in the previous class. I said that a devotee needs to become mature to conquer krodha vegam. And I gave an example that a small child, let's say Srinath Prabhu, when you were a small child, did you ever desire a balloon?
Always.
Always. And if you were denied a balloon, then what would you do?
Tantrums.
And today, do you desire a balloon, Prabhu?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Really?
Not for me, but for others.
Okay. That was an unexpected answer. Usually people don't answer with yes. But like, do you really desire a balloon with the same force that you desired in your childhood?
No.
No. And if today you are denied a balloon, what will you feel?
Nothing. If I don't desire anything, how it's going to affect me?
Yeah, that's what. So that was the solution suggested in the previous talk. So you can go through it. I had spoken to Dhāmeśvara Prabhu about it, and we took the example of an ice cream. So, but I gave the example also of a balloon because, it's very easy to understand. Today, I don't desire a balloon. Somebody says, "Oh, Hari Pārṣada, I'll not give you a balloon." I said, "Well, I'm fair enough. Don't give me a balloon." So,
I hope that question would be answered in the previous class.
yeah.
But
And
yeah.
And I'm always
yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Sorry.
So I mean, as a devotee, and I put myself in that shoe. The problem is we know this way, we understand theoretically this way, but the expression when we are in it becomes something that need to be tailored. There is a whole lot of non-violent communication, and at the same time I also understand krodha can be used as a service to Krishna. In fact, Lord Rama, he himself, he tried a sublime approach to the ocean, and ultimately, like he has to pick up his bow. So growth is something. I mean, I was wondering if this aspect could be understood. How devotees, we should not like pretend not to be what we are not. Like
So,
we are absorbing that anger and not expressing it in a way, then one day the curtain will open,
right,
the real self will be shown.
right. So this I spoke in the previous class that I said there were two varieties of anger. One is the healthy variety, and then another is the unhealthy variety. And how do devotees express healthy variety of anger, and where do they draw the line? So that was discussed in the previous talk. So, and if I mean, you can go through the previous talk, and there is something still further clarification needed. You can always send me a direct message. You have my
Sure.
contact, right? Thank you for waiting.
Perhaps we can put questions about content in the group thread too, so everyone gets the chance to
Right.
benefit from your answer. So your devotees are welcome to do that. Next, we'll have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I had one question regarding this Jihva vegam.
Yeah.
In Ayurveda, I don't know the reference, but I had heard it that when our body needs something, maybe some food or some kind of thing, so it basically produces a impulse in the mind, and that will basically encourage us to have such kind of foods. So such impulses can be, as we know, requirements of body, or sometimes they may be just for, you can say, excess enjoyment. So how can we distinguish between them? Because it's very difficult. We are not so adept that we are going to understand that our demand is really required by our body or not.
See, you stop worrying about all these things because you're taking Mahaprasadam, no? So you don't have mathematical calculations in Mahaprasadam. That I know what you're speaking about. There is something called as pushti, nourishment, and there is something called as tushti, enjoyment. Pushti and tushti. Where do you draw a line between pushti and tushti? That's what your question is, right? Yeah, don't
Yes,
think
Prabhu.
mathematically. Don't think mathematically. It's not. Hey, you're eating prasadam. Come on. Well, you'll think mathematically about eating prasadam. It's not like that. But when the enjoyment starts getting a little bit more, your mind will give you an indication. So Paramatma is there, no? He's seated within you. He'll tell you, "Arey, Omkar, bus, stop, stop, right? Enough enjoyment, Omkar, for today. That's all." It's not that you have to stop at the very first, unit of enjoyment that you receive. No. It's not. Prasadam is also supposed to give you enjoyment. Come on, if prasadam is not supposed to give you enjoyment, then what other enjoyment is there for the devotee? Like, so we stopped all the enjoyments in life. No meat eating, no intoxicating, no gambling. All the enjoyments are stopped. And then you are asking such a question: how do I draw the line between nourishment and enjoyment? Obviously, you don't have to draw a line, but once you cross the line, after some time, Paramatma will indicate to you. You see, one thing, for our Vedic system of discrimination is not like the Industrial Revolution. I hope you are able to understand. One thing, Industrial Revolution set absolute mechanical standards of what is good, what is bad, what should be done, what should not be done. You see, this pattern of thinking is a product of the Industrial Revolution. Previously, people wouldn't think like this. Let me give you a brilliant example of how Industrial Revolution has affected our thought. Recently, I saw a painting of Radha and Krishna, and Srimati Radharani was feeding sweets to Krishna. And there were sweets in the bowl, and all sweets were of the same size, same shape, cut in the same way. See, I have eaten sweets in my childhood, which were made in
Yes.
my village. They used to roll them using hands. Now, sweets which are rolled using hands, are they of the same size, same shape,
They'll
cookie
be
cuts?
uneven. They'll
No,
be uneven.
of course. Hmm. Are two trees the same?
No, never.
Are two branches of the same tree the same?
No,
No. Are two flowers or fruits the same?
no.
Then why should two sweets be the same? You see? So this is how industrial revolution has affected us. We have these standards of accuracy, like not even a millimeter more, or not even a gram more of enjoyment than what is designated for me. I stop thinking in terms of industrial revolution. But Paramatma, it is Paramatma's job to indicate to you. So leave some things up to him. All right, he will indicate to you. Okay. Huh?
Yes, sure. And Pro, I had one second question. It's a small question.
Right.
When we are doing bhajan, what happens is every sadhaka is in a different stage of life, I would say. So at a particular stage of life, he has to maybe focus on career or student life, education, etc., etc.
Right.
So while doing that, the mind always has some kind of dvandva or dichotomy between to do strong bhajan or to focus on what is required now. So
Right.
this dichotomy, sometimes what it does is it does not let us do anything either of it perfectly.
Right.
So how should a sadhaka know what is good? Because encouragement for bhajan is obviously very good. It's said that you should obviously have high encouragement for bhajan, but sometimes it may also make you a bit problematic in the, you can say, whole picture.
Agreed. 100%. So you see, when you go and visit the temple, associate with devotees, they'll tell you, many devotees will tell you, just focus on the bhajan, forget about material life. And when you go and work when you associate with relatives and people who are materialists, they will tell you, forget about spiritual life. And you're trying to find a balance. As I told you, in the immediate run, you may try to find a balance. Ultimately, when you start growing older, you have to go off balance and focus on one thing. But for the time being, let's take for the time being. What to do for the time being? So for the time being, what one has to do is, one has to do so much that one's bhajan is not affected to a great extent. That is what one should try and ensure. Take a if one has, some people have money coming very easily in their lives. Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami had money coming very easily in his life. So he had a family business. Some other people don't have it. So whatever you are blessed with and whatever comes easiest to you, whatever is best for your bhajan, you should do. But at the same time, and remember this is very important thing, which is not often told in devotee circles. There's an instruction which Lord Ram gave to Lakshman, and it's there in the Ramayana. I'll try to find it. I didn't memorize it, but it is in the Ramayana. That Lord Ram says to Lakshman, there are four aims of human life: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. There are four aims of human life. Lakshman, are you sure your dharma is not suppressing your other three aims? I hope you're able to understand.
Yes, sir.
Lakshman, are you ensuring that your dharma is not suppressing your other three aims? This is Vedic thought. So Vedic culture is that don't overdo dharma so much that it suppresses your other aims of human life. But devotee thought is you do dharma so much, even if it suppresses everything else. And even if you fall down, there is no loss, and you will gain. So
Yes.
100%. So ultimately, if you are, if you are innately of the thought process of a devotee, you will go the devotee way. And if you are innately of the thought process of a balancing person, then you will go the Ramayana way, where Lord Ram says, "O Lakshman, is your dharma suppressing your other goals of human life? Try that. Try that. It should not happen like that." So both are good and both are accepted in Vedic culture. So Vedic culture is not just just go one way. There are multiple paths. It is nigamana. It is kalpataru. It is a desire fulfilling tree. Vedas are desire fulfilling tree. If you have a material desire, there's nothing wrong about it. Let's be honest. If you have a material desire, is there anything wrong about it, Omkar Prabhu?
Difficult question to answer.
What? What? Because I'm asking you in public?
Maybe, yes. Would say.
Let me give the answer. There's nothing wrong about it. Because as long as you have a valid way of fulfilling it, as a dharmic way of fulfilling it, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. A material desire doesn't innately become sinful, automatically become sinful. It becomes sinful when you use non-Vedic techniques to fill it. I hope you're able to understand. When you use dharma to fulfill it, then it is no longer sinful. That's what it is. That's what Krishna says in the Gita, dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am that sex life which is not against the principles of dharma. Therefore, I asked you the question. The answer is right there in Shastra. It's nothing wrong to have a material desire. What is wrong is to fulfill it using illegitimate means. Right? So you have to be natural with who you are, what is your nature, and how you have to progress. But Vedas will support both paths. You want to take the extremist route and become like a full-fledged devotee, give up everything else. And even if you suffer later in material life, still Krishna will protect you. And if you want to take the balancing route and do your material life, and still the Vedas will support you. So you are well supported here, and Bhakti Devi is always there for you. Right?
Yes, true.
If you want to ask what would I have done, then I'll not give you the answer, because that is what I would have done with my life. But what you want to do is what
That
you
will depend upon some samskaras which I have.
Very nice. So you should think from your framework, not from somebody else's framework.
Yes.
That's what Vedic culture is. You have to train to be a Brahmana yourself. Right?
Yes, true. Yes, true. Thank you for Hare Krishna.
Thank you. All right, Pārṣada Prabhu, I'm going to pass over to you calling on people because I have to go now, but I'll keep the call on.
Okay. So should we do one thing? Should we pause here and continue next time? I think that's a good idea. Because if you are not there, then there's no joy in the call. We should be there.
I think that's an exaggeration, Prabhu, or maybe just your generosity. I'll leave it up to you. I feel bad for Satvik Sharma and Bhavya.
Okay, so what maybe you can go through. I'll take one or two questions with your permission, and then I'll end the call. Okay?
Yeah, you're in charge.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very helpful. Yes, Satvik Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, first of all, I would like to thank you for these wonderful classes, and especially what I like about you, how you make us understand and point out the complexities and subtleties. And secondly, I have two questions from our last session, if you kindly allow.
Sure. So from the last session you're saying, right?
Yes, because I had a problem with my internet.
Okay, sure. No worries. Please go ahead and ask.
Thank you. So, Prabhu, in the last session, you told us about a verse from Mahabharata, Nakaryam asti krodhasya. And then you pointed out sometimes we do some, you were discussing about loss of sense of speech. And you said something about hauntings of old misdeeds. So what can we do about them? Like sometimes we have done such things or have spoken such harsh words to some people or even some devotees which now haunt us. So what can be done about that?
So what can be done about krodha vegam which was executed in the past? That's the question, right?
Yes.
So in the Madhurya Kadambini, yeah.
Secondly, I would like to add just a small thing. Then you quoted something from Sri Ramayana, Sundarkand. that a angry soul can also blaspheme or kill one's own guru.
Right.
And you then said that he may be not be able to face his guru for the rest of his life.
Right.
So if adding to this question, I just wanted to ask that if someone has done something like that and he's not he does not has the courage to face that person for whole life, so what can be done? Now the question is complete. Thank you.
No, right. So if a person has done such a serious thing that, especially against the guru, that one doesn't have the courage to face the guru throughout their life.
Guru or devotee?
Devotee, yeah. One thing one should understand, as long as the devotee is physically present, till that time is your golden chance of doing something to fix the relationship. Please try to understand. As long as the devotee is physically present, till that time is your chance of fixing the relationship. Many people, they went against their guru and they were able to rectify or at least come to peace in a relationship with their guru, as long as the guru was physically present. So we have to understand that till the devotee is physically present, we still have a chance of rectifying the relationship, and we should try to do that as soon as possible. So just because we're not able to face them, or we did something or whatever, this time heals all wounds, and therefore after some time we should gather some courage and try to approach that person. And what will the guru do, or what will that Vaishnav do? The worst case scenario, he'll say something harsh. The most worst case scenario is they may physically assault us. We should be prepared to tolerate that, provided that because we have done so much so against them. So, but if we are able to do that, I would strongly suggest to meet that person and to rectify the relationship, as long as the person is physically present on the planet. You'll never regret this. You'll never regret, that I rectified the relationship. As much as, of course, once there is a dent in the relationship, it can never become the same. But you took the step of rectification. That itself will save you from a lot of troubles later. So this is what should be done. And after you have made attempts to rectify the relationship, still you should not consider yourself as completely free. Still you should put in some efforts to do more quality bhajan. And there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, Tattenu kampam susamikshamano. A devotee accepts all reactions, bad reactions, as the mercy of the Lord, as a residue of what past karma he has done. So I'll show you that verse in the Bhagavatam, Tattenu kampam susamikshamano. You can read the translation of the verse, and you can see the mood of a devotee. But this is after you have apologized and met the devotee, and please read the translation through.
My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become the rightful claim. His rightful claim.
Is surely eligible for what?
Is surely eligible for liberation.
100%. So if we have this attitude, so first is you rectify the relationship as much as possible. And after that, if there's some negative reaction comes, then you have to be patient. And you should know that it has come from one's past misdeeds. And still one should not become angry and have a grudge against Bhagavan. So one should be respectful towards Bhagavan. And then one becomes eligible for liberation. The term used is Dai Bhak. Dai Bhak actually means you receive liberation as your inheritance. Do you know what is inheritance? Property inheritance. That is called Dai Bhak. So what do you have to do in order to receive property in inheritance? What do you have to do?
Nothing, just nothing. You have to be the son of your father.
Yeah, you have to remain alive. That's what you have to do, right? You have to remain alive and tolerate your family.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Huh? Nothing else. Remain alive and tolerate your family.
Yes.
remain alive and tolerate the previous reactions. That's
Yes.
all. I think I hope you're able to understand. So it's a
Yes.
very important verse. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. So just stay alive in your bhajan and tolerate the previous reactions and mend the relationship as long as the person is physically present. If it seems that if this is something which has happened in your personal life, I'm not assuming anything, but if this is something which has happened in your personal life, then my strong suggestion is that you mend the relationship as long as the person is physically present.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And Prabhu, two little sub questions. First, if the person is not physically alive anymore,
Then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests in the Madhurya Kadambini, there is one suggestion given that one should chant in a very in a state of mind of lamentation. So that suggestion is given in Madhurya Kadambini. So you should refer to Madhurya Kadambini in the section dealing with Vaishnava Aparadhs. So in that section you will find that solution. So if it is not possible to please such a Vaishnava somehow or to apologize to such a Vaishnava, then what should be done? So that's the last solution given. And ideally, it is best to first approach and mend the relationship.
when the person is alive.
Yeah.
And the second sub question is, you yourself mentioned it shortly during the answer, that it cannot make the relationship as it was original.
Yeah.
There's always some drift in between, or tension or friction, you can say. So that remains, I think, personally.
It may remain, but if you really go out of your way and please the other devotee, that may also go away. But to go out of your way to do that. And a devotee should be willing to do that. But at least if that is not possible, at least one should mend the relationship.
As far as it is possible, to the extent.
Yeah, and still after that, some negative reactions will come. And that one has to tolerate patiently. And that is when one becomes eligible for receiving Bhagavan's mercy. All right.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. One last query from Bhave Bhagwan Prabhu.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I have just two questions, both arising from Omkar Prabhu and Satvik Prabhu's questions only. Prabhu, so you mentioned that if the material desires are fulfilled according to dharma, it's perfectly fine. But I've come across devotees who harbor this desire to take another life just to enjoy sufficiently enough. They feel that in this life they did not enjoy sufficiently enough, and they want to take another life for that. I mean, how stupid of that. I mean, they will lose the chance just to go back to Godhead. And probably they might as well land up in Swarga. And by the time they are back again, the Mahaprabhu's, these 10,000 years would go away, would finish. So what is the hope for them? That is my first question. And my second question, which is from Satvik Prabhu's question, is, although we may try to mend the relationship and we might totally, completely give up a false ego, but the other person, he might still would like to stick to his false ego. So even though we are trying to really put a lot of efforts, but the person on the other side is not willing to give up his false ego. So how can the relationship be mended, Prabhu, then? These are my two questions, Prabhu.
Right. So your first question is, some devotees want to take a separate life for material enjoyment. And you said you find it to be not so logical. That why do they want to take another life simply for enjoyment? They may go to Swarga, and by the time they come back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement will be over. And then what will happen to them? So sometimes we don't understand how Swarga works. Swarga is not only a place from where one falls down. Swarga is sometimes a place from where one goes up also. There are two types of mukti or liberation. One is called Krama Mukti, gradual liberation. One is called Sadhya Mukti, immediate liberation. What Gopakumar experienced in Brihad Bhagavatamritam, he goes planet to planet, planet to planet, planet to planet, planet to planet. Does Gopakumar come down from Swargaloka or go up from Swargaloka? Tell me, Bhavi Bhagwan. He goes up. All right.
He went up, Prabhu. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So not everybody who goes to Swarga comes down, Prabhu. So there is a sequence of getting liberated in this material world, which is called Krama Mukti, gradual liberation. Wherein a devotee who has not fulfilled his desires, he goes to Swarga, gets all his desires fulfilled. And of course, Swarga is meant for enjoyment. That is rightful enjoyment for the devotee. Nobody should say no to the devotee. That is rightful enjoyment for the devotee. And then he enjoys, he or she enjoys. And then the desires are fulfilled. And then through his bhajan, he or she elevates himself further up, doesn't fall down, and goes out of the material world. Would you like to?
That devotee wants to take birth in this world again.
No, you can tell he can have a better option, right?
Yeah, I told that devotee, and that devotee was like, no, in this material world, on this earth.
Okay, but he will never be able to take a non-devotional birth. All his births will be devotional. And if he has a desire for enjoyment, then Bhagavan will ensure that his desire is fulfilled. Jiva Goswami gives the example of Chitraketu. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's Chitraketu. He sees Krishna, he sees Bhagavan face to face, but he has still material desires. So after he leaves his body, he goes to heaven and he becomes a Gandharva, a singer. And he has beautiful girls and his two arms around two girls. And he's singing Krishna's songs. Now you can imagine that, having both arms around girlfriends and singing Bhagwan songs. It may look like a sahajiya, but that's what he was doing in heavenly planets. So he was, and basically then he went to Lord Shiva, and then the entire incident of him being cursed happened. But his usual course of journey, he would have gone up, and gotten liberated. But Bhagwan wanted to speeden up his liberation, because Bhagwan also wanted that he should come back soon, and therefore some special arrangement was made. Otherwise, he would have spent thousands of years having a good life, and then he would have become liberated. So devotees need not worry about that. Krama Mukti is also an option for them. But devotees usually don't aspire for Krama Mukti. Devotees want prema as soon as possible. That is what the devotees want. Right. And second question, you said about if a devotee, that was a follow-up to Satvik Prabhu. If a devotee, and if we have hurt a devotee, we try to mend it, but the other devotee still has their ego and doesn't want to mend the relationship. So you put your part of the effort, and we should understand it was we who, caused the rift in the relationship in the first place. So if the other person wants to stay like that, they have the freedom to stay like that. But we should put in our due efforts to at least mend the relationship to a certain extent. And after that, we should focus on our bhajan. The main thing is to focus on our bhajan, not so much on trying to please everybody all the time. If we have put in sufficient efforts, sincere efforts, then definitely, we can continue to perform our bhajan.
Rosie, how do we gauge that we have put in this efforts?
I told you, Paramatma will tell you. Don't think of industrial standards of measurement. Paramatma will tell you, hey, you have done enough now. Focus on your bhajan. Right? There's a good judge sitting within the heart. Will tell you, you've done enough now. Don't do more. All right. So that's what will tell you. That's who will tell you. That's the person who will indicate to you that now it's enough. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Actually, I had a relationship with a devotee. It got topsy-turvy, and then we worked it out again. So I just realized that devotees can really come back to the proper relationship standards again, like a friendly manner. Only if we realize how valuable that devotee is, how much service that devotee is rendering to Prabhupada's mission. If we can be cognizant of that fact, any relationship, no matter how bad it goes, can still come to track. That's my personal realization.
Yeah, 100%. But our relationship is good, Prabhu. That's good, right?
Yeah. No, I was just telling about some devotee. I had a
Yeah,
relationship with the devotee,
I'm just
and then
making
it worked out again.
But I'm happy that our relationship is good. I see you as a very good friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you
So
so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
thank you so much. We'll pause here now. Thank you to all the devotees who are still present here. And we'll meet again next Sunday. And thank you once again to Dhāmeśvara Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thanks a lot, Prabhuji. Thanks.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Dhanwad.
Hare Krishna. Is there a